Electronic Arts came under a lot of fire about the microtransaction policies in Battlefront 2. Hawaii's state legislature and even the Belgian government have stepped in to ascertain whether or not the inclusion of paid loot boxes in games are tantamount to a form of gambling. Basically, they don't want children getting anywhere near anything that could be considered gambling. But really and truthfully, it's a lot deeper than that. It's time for Thing in a Minute. Microtransactions aren't evil, neither are loot boxes. But the way that they're utilized in games can seem really predatory. Because of this, I'm going to switch focus. Not necessarily on microtransactions and loot boxes, but predatory practices and why in a lot of cases they should probably stop. Whenever developers or publishers try to justify the idea of microtransactions, they usually do so under the guise of, well, we need this in order to make up development costs, since development costs have risen so dramatically that we have to have an alternate method of making money beyond the sale of the initial game. While that may be true for some, there are a lot of circumstances where, quite honestly, the math doesn't add up. On second thought, stop the clock. This is going to take a little bit longer than a minute. For this example, I'm going to use the biggest video game of all time, Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 originally released September 17th, 2013. It has a massive single-player campaign released on two different systems. It was the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It also packed in Grand Theft Auto Online, which was a giant online multiplayer mode. Inside Grand Theft Auto Online, you can play as much as you want, don't have to pay a single dime. And the more you play, the more you rise in level, and the more cool stuff you're able to buy. But the higher you go up in those levels, the more expensive things get, because the cooler stuff naturally costs more money. It doesn't affect multiplayer gameplay in a competitive sense, but playing the standard online mode with friends involves buying items such as planes, tanks, houses, cars, guns, clothes, you name it. Those things cost in-game money, and it takes time to build up that in-game money. You can lessen the time it takes to acquire that in-game money by paying real-world money for something called shark cards. Shark cards provide a boost of in-game money on an immediate basis, therefore giving you immediate ability to buy the things that would otherwise be out of your reach. Some people tell you that shark cards and the revenue generated from them pay for developers to make the online modes or to add updates or to add new content. And in some cases, that's true. But when you're dealing with Grand Theft Auto, something seems amiss. Between PlayStation 3 and 4, Xbox 360 and Xbox One and PC, Grand Theft Auto has been speculated to sell around 62.6 million copies. At $60 per copy, that equals a whopping $3.75 billion in revenue. Now, price drops are a thing, so let's go ahead and round that number down some, just to be on the safe side. Let's call it $3 billion. The development budget for this game, everything it launched with on day one, cost $265 million to create. At those rates, Grand Theft Auto 5, in terms of sheer sales of the main game, has made back its development budget 11 times over. Back in October of 2016, Daniel Ahmad of Nico Partners posted something on Twitter saying that GTA Online was hugely successful for Take-Two and Rockstar to the tune of $700 million in revenue over 12 months. Why is this a bad thing? Why can't we pay them more money for stuff they've made? What they're doing is creating a situation in which players lose patience, and then they capitalize on lost patience by artificially lengthening the grind to make it more difficult to afford things in-game. You create a situation where you're not paying for in-game money, you're paying for relief, and that's predatory. When a company has made 11 times its development budget back, there's no reason to keep charging people after the fact. At that point, you've asked people to pay you upwards of $700 million within a year to make more content for a game that already should have the budget available to do that tenfold. You can look at this in a multitude of other games, and while EA may very well be the world's worst about this, most of your major publishers are getting in on this. They're all moving towards this style of alternate revenue stream. Games like Battlefront 2 take it to the nth degree and start selling you something that impacts actual gameplay and utilizes RNG. You can't pick what it is you're unlocking. You get it randomly given to you. You might get lucky on your first $10 purchase, or you might have to be $140 in before you finally get that thing that you were looking for. And by that point, you've already spent $140 plus the $60 you paid to get in the door. They want you to hope beyond hope that this will be the time that you win big. That's exactly how casinos operate. That's literally their entire business model is built around them making money off of your hope in something that will never happen, statistically speaking. If that's not gambling, what is? It's one thing to do this in a mobile game where you're getting it for free and you know that the microtransactions that you pay for are tied directly to the revenue stream for that developer making that game. But on a AAA $60 title, that's not the case. So essentially, this creates an environment where the player always loses and the house always wins. And if we're looking at it in those terms, then yeah, it's tantamount to gambling. And that's not the comparison that the video game industry wants drawn for very good reason. I'm Grant Patterson, and this has been Stop the Clock. Be sure to check us out at basementroadshow.com. Check us out at Facebook. Check us out at Twitter. Also, click like, click subscribe. If you like what we do, let us know. If you don't like what we do, let us know. If you really like what we do, click the little bell icon. That way you get updates on when we post new videos. Seriously, it's like winning the lottery and asking someone for Tree Fitty.